a bank denies a loan. No explanation, no appeal, just an AI decision. Now ask yourself, who validated that model? Who monitored it after deployment? Who's responsible when it's wrong? Most companies don't know the answer to that, and that's the gap. What's needed is an AI management system to govern all of this. And the good news is, we have one. If you're a cybersecurity person like me, you've probably at least heard of the International Standards Organization, and in particular, one of their standards, 27001, which is the international standard for information security management systems. So 27001 specifies how an organization establishes, implements, maintains, and continuously improves an information security management system. Well, they came out with a new standard called 42001. It basically does what 27001 did for security, it does for AI. So it's an AI management system. Now, 42001 is not some checklist of controls. It's a system for managing AI risk continuously. It's auditable, it's certifiable, it's built around continual improvement across the entire life cycle. It's governance, not model architecture. Now, like other ISO standards, 42001 follows the plan, do, check, act model. In this case, we plan by defining AI policies, scope, and risk criteria. Then we move into the do phase where we develop and deploy AI systems with appropriate controls. Then we check on the results, monitor performance, look for bias drift and unintended consequences. And then ultimately we act on what we find, continuously improve based on those findings, and the whole thing becomes a continuous improvement cycle. Everything in ISO 42001 hinges on a risk-based approach. And not all risk is equal because not all systems are equal. So we need to put in the appropriate level of controls for our perceived level of risk. It explicitly considers risk across multiple layers. So one area of risk could be data risk, where we've got bias or quality issues in the data itself that will affect the results. We've got model risks that can happen here also, where the accuracy of the information or the explainability of the results that come out are in question. We have system-level risks where we have integrations between components, we have security aspects, those need to be considered here also. And then usage risks, where we have to consider what misuse and unintended consequences might introduce into the system. ISO 42001 uses the standard ISO high-level structure. So let's take a look at some of the major sections that are in that. So the first one we're going to take a look at is context. With context, we're trying to define the scope of the AI systems. We're going to identify the stakeholders. We're going to determine whatever regulatory obligations we may have. And depending on what industry you're in or what country you're in, those could vary. The next thing that it discusses is leadership. So we're going to assign AI accountability. Who's responsible for this? If no one is, then it doesn't get done. We define AI policy and we establish some sort of governance structure in this section. Then the next one deals with planning. And in the planning step is where we're going to do AI risk assessments. We're going to look at a methodology to determine what kind of risk are we facing, what appetite do we have for risk, what tolerance do we have for risk. You can look at those different ways. What is the risk treatment plan? What kinds of actions are we going to take? Because we don't eliminate all risks. In some cases, we may decide to accept certain risks. And then measurable AI objectives will all be included in this step. Then we're going to move to the support component. Here we're going to provide documentation, awareness training, and overall communication of how we want to operate the system. Then to an operation section. Here we're going to define the lifecycle governance. A change management, the system will not stay the same always, so we need to plan for change because change is the only constant. Supplier AI oversight, all of that needs to be covered in this section. Then we're going to do evaluation. In the evaluation component, we're monitoring, we're doing internal audits, we're looking at management reviews, all of this. And then ultimately, an improvement stage where we've taken all of these things, we're going to do incident handling, we're going to take corrective actions, and we're going to do that continuous improvement. So we've been talking about this ISO 42001 standard, and I expect a lot of people are going to be using it as an AI management system and a standard to certify against. But there are other things out there as well, and you may have heard of some of these and wonder, how do they compare and contrast? Well, for instance, the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology has an AI risk management framework that also sounds at least somewhat similar to what I've been talking about with the ISO 42001. And then the European Union, the EU, has their AI Act, which also has some similarities and some overlaps here. So let's take a look at the compare and contrast amongst these three. So we'll start off with this one, the NIST Risk Management Framework. So first of all, this one is voluntary. So you can do this one or you cannot. It's up to you. It's flexible, so there's a good deal of left to the user to decide how you want to do some of these things. Think of it more as guidance, where it's basically telling you as a design guide, here are the things that you should be doing. So take a look at it this way. It's telling you what good looks like. That's the goal of this one. Now, for the ISO 42001, as I mentioned previously, it's certifiable. You can actually get a document that says, we've had someone come in and audit us and issue a certificate against this standard. So then you can prove that you're in compliance with it. You wouldn't be able to do that with this one. This one is also very prescriptive in nature. It prescribes a structure and it tells you basically how to manage your AI infrastructure and how to basically meet the obligations that you may have and do it in a consistent way. Then we've got the EU AI Act. Now this one's different still. This one has a lot of teeth in it. This one is law. This one is definitely not voluntary if you're in the EU. It's based on risks, and it has a tiered risk structure where you've got unacceptable, high, limited, and minimal are all spelled out. And this one is enforced. So there are penalties if you don't follow this, and it's going to define what you have to do. So this is the one that is basically telling you how you comply. So think of it this way. The NIST AI Risk Management Framework is for risk modeling and best practices. ISO 42001 is for governance, auditability, and certification. And the EU AI Act is the legal constraint you have to satisfy. They're not competing, they're complementary layers that can give you a stronger AI system. Organizations that treat AI governance as a checkbox are going to struggle. Organizations that don't govern their AI will struggle even more. But those that build it into the management system will scale faster and safer. ISO 42001 is the first international standard to formalize this into a complete system. Govern your AI well, and you can harness it to do amazing things. If you don't, you're going to feel like it locked you in the trunk and went for a joyride.